I hate my cell phone. And this isn't because I'm some kind of a Luddite or tech adverse. I work with the Open Food Network global community, so I work with technically skilled people all the time. And truth be told, because I live in Waterloo and I worked for the local government, I was a beta tester of the original BlackBerry. So I have had one of these things for a very long time, longer than anybody in the world. And still, I don't like it. I don't like it for a number of reasons. And I won't go into all of them, but today we're going to talk about selling yourself, marketing your flower farm, to which everybody immediately thinks about social media. And social media can do that for you, it can help with that. And there are toolkits that Open Food Network is putting together that will help you figure that out. But I want to give you some options that are beyond social media. I want to thank first Open Food Network Canada and the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership for this wonderful support to do these projects and make these resources for you. Don't forget about the power of the real world. Um, and it's not my words, but marketing experts will tell you that face to face and personal marketing is still the most trusted form of advertising by 80% of consumers. So, lots of reasons to distrust social media. And you know that if you follow social media, you know that you can't really believe everything that's posted. You know that there's a facade of imagery that happens. You know when you take your own pictures that you stage them and you touch them up. There's very little real about social media. So people know that and they don't really trust that. So why would you go social media free? And then we'll talk about how would you go social media. And I don't know if it's social media free as much as seeing the analog and the digital as complementing each other in different ways. But because you're a local farm and you're selling locally, different thing if you're trying to sell something you're mail ordering nationally, for example, or you making some kind of a product that you ship. Different thing. But for your flowers, mostly we're selling in a local community. And we want community rooted connections to buy our flowers. We want a hyper local marketing campaign. It might complement a more global social media campaign, but you want the hyper local to complement because this will build your personal connections and that will build loyalty. You want to build customer loyalty. People have to come back and come back and come back to you. It also reduces stress and the amount of time that you have to spend online. And it strengthens your brand because here you are, a local brand doing things in a local community. When I started flower farming, I started to take flowers everywhere I went and leave them. Now, I mean everywhere. Go to get my hair cut, I take her a bouquet of flowers for her table. I go for my dentist appointment, I take a bouquet of flowers for there. I go to get my tires changed, I take a bouquet of flowers for the people in the office part of the garage. Um, I go through a drive-through and I leave flowers for the person who served me. I took flowers everywhere. Yes, of course, when I met friends and stuff, but I go to a restaurant, I get flowers to the waitress. Every time I left the house, I thought, which flower should I take? And why would I do that? Because if I drop flowers at my dentist office, how many people are going to see those flowers, even if they only last a day and they last longer than a day? 30, 40 people come in for appointments that day, maybe. And they all see flowers, and my business card is with them. Make sure you staple your business card to your wrapping. And they say, isn't this nice? Who left these? And one of those people is going to know someone who's having a birthday, who's having an anniversary, who's going to get married next year, whatever. And they're going to write down my number from my card. You can even leave a couple of cards. So that is a way of reaching people in a very, very direct way. People in your local community who are interested in flowers. Social media posts, you capture lots of people. They're with the eye candy scrolling through. They might not really be interested in local flowers, and they might not even be local people. This is a very targeted audience, and it's fun to do, and it's easy to do, and people are delighted. It's not like cold calling, right? People go, oh my gosh, they're so excited to see them. It's a wonderful way to introduce yourself. Be your own ambassador. This word of mouth matters. This word of mouth spreads in the same way that social media spreads, where someone is following someone and shares it with someone, etc. It's sharing. But this is targeted word of mouth. This is people saying, oh, yeah, so and so's having a birthday. Hey, there was this amazing bouquet in the dentist's office. And this farm, what was its name again? So this word of mouth makes a big difference in your local community. Similarly, local networking, join things. You're a local business now, join local business associations, network with them, talk with them. If you don't think you're really a business, that you're starting in farming and you're not sure you want to call yourself a business yet, join a garden club. Garden clubs are hurting for people, and they're in every community, and they love talking about flowers, and they would love to invite you to do a presentation about flowers. And it doesn't have to be glitzy or high tech, because they're very down to earth things. Just go to a couple of meetings if you haven't gone to a couple of meetings, and you'll see there are people who love talking about flowers, and they would love to know that there's a flower farmer in their community, and they all know other people who they're going to tell. Community engagement, not just networking. Attend people's events, go to local events, little music festivals. uh, Go to there's a car show this weekend in my little town close by here. I'll go to that because I'll talk to people while I'm there, and they'll say, oh, you live nearby? Yes. Oh, you have that farm with the flowers. That's how those conversations go, and you might not even think about that as marketing, because it's just being in touch with your local people. You never know what comes up. Set up a booth at local fairs, or if maybe you're already at a farmer's market, but sometimes there's just one-off craft fairs, and set up a booth. Even if you have to make something just to capture attention, but the reason you're really there is to show images or pictures to say, this is what my flowers look like in season. You can even attend out of season events and tell people about the season, because you're there to reach the people. Home shows are wonderful for that. They happen in the early spring. You don't usually have flowers, and they can be expensive to buy a booth. But if you decide to, you can still take uh, a display. You can take, maybe you've made some grapevine wreaths or something, dried flower wreaths that you take. But you can also make a display that says, do you know someone who's getting married this year? Or whatever, and have them share what's coming up on your farm. Sell your subscriptions that way. Wedding shows could be nice too, although they're expensive. But look for these events in your community and attend some of them. Host things, volunteer, join. And as I say, going to networking events is really important. Let's move on to print, because that's usually the first thing we think about when we think of beyond social media, is the print stuff. So business cards, flyers, brochures, all of these things really matter. And with programs like, I'm going to mention Canva, not because it's not, certainly not the only one, but there is a free version, and it's very easy to learn. A little bit of a learning curve, but once you've got it, you've got it. And you can make these kinds of promotions pretty simple and have them available at your farm or your booths. But how do you get them out there? Well, direct mail. Direct mail is known to deliver the best conversion rates. People who move from hearing about you to actually acting and buying something. And you can do direct mails of everything from postcards to thank you cards. And you can do it targeted in your very local community using our very own Canada Post. So Canada Post has programs. You can just go on their website. They can facilitate how you access mail in your neighborhood. They can target to specific postal codes. They can do all these things. These things cost money. So it's not free, but you don't have to do it all the time. Maybe you just do it once when you're starting out, and then you wait 3 or 4 years. Maybe you're adding a new kind of channel or program to what you do, and you do this again to whatever local range of people you want. You'll be able to search from a map of who you want to target. Might be a big circle, might be a small circle. I live in an area where the city is encroaching outwards from their boundary, and so there are new subdivision kind of places, peri-urban places not too far from me. Those are the communities I would target. because as new people, welcome to the neighborhood. Did you know that there's a flower farm in your backyard? Um, but come up with your own idea for that, your own target for that. Um, and yes, it costs money, but here's the thing. I know you think social media is free. I know you think Pinterest is free. It's maybe it's free in your pocket, but hey, it is anything but free. Okay. Pinterest makes money. Facebook makes money. Meta makes a lot of money. You know this already. So how do they make their money? Well, it's obviously through their advertising. You are generating mailing lists for them that they sell, and then they target advertising to someone else. So I wouldn't call this free. And frankly, when I hear stories about how young people are targeted so terribly on social media, horrible stories of what can happen on social media, how um, political um, campaigns are being influenced, how elections are being influenced on social media. It frightens me. This is anything but free. That's my soapbox about social media. It's worth spending a little money here. Swag, branded swag. I have, sorry, I have an ASCFG sweatshirt that actually won at an ASCFG meeting. It's pretty amazing. It's a lovely sweatshirt. And I wear it, and people always ask, "What is that? What's that logo on your?" So people notice what you're wearing, much to my chagrin, much of the time. But people notice what you're wearing, and they'll ask about it. Is that your farm? And you can brand anything. It doesn't have to be a T-shirt or a sweatshirt. It could be a gardening apron or an insulated coffee cup that people use to wander around your gardens or notebooks and pens that you give out at your workshop or whatever. But swag is nice. Everybody kind of likes a little bit of swag. Roadside signage, don't overlook this. Um, People need to know that you're a flower farm. And yes, they might see a booth, they might see a roadside stand, but it isn't quite enough. They probably want to know more. A banner is a great thing, and a banner isn't very expensive. And you can get them done online, or there are all your local companies. You really just need to search Google for that. You'll find local companies, but you can use Staples or Vista or whatever to do these things. And you can put a QR code on them. And so then people who have stopped to maybe buy your flowers roadside, they want to know a little more about you, and you can have that information linked to a website through a QR code. It's not that complicated. And it's pretty straightforward, and people know what to do with QR codes now. They know how to scan them and find more information. And so it's a great way if you want to promote other things about your farm. Because there they are, they're buying a bouquet, but maybe they wonder, who is this and why is she selling this bouquet and what is this all about? And you can tell your story. And telling your story is a really important part of building your brand. It's not just there's a stand at the side of the road and I picked up flowers. That isn't a brand, right? I mean, that's barely a product, honestly. You need to build an identity, a brand identity, and your flowers are the gateway to doing that. So think about your identity and who you want to be and use some roadside signage. And if it's possible where your location is, to actually make sure you plant flowers visible from the road, it makes a huge difference because flowers capture attention. People driving along, they're looking at the gardens. I go on a drive, if I'm the passenger and I'm looking out the window, looking at the landscaping. So people do this, and you want them to say, "Oh, wow, that's not ordinary landscaping. That's not just the euonymus shrub sitting there. Look at all those flowers." And this happens to me all the time. You can actually see the areas where I have my cut flowers planted from the road. Everybody thinks they can, but they can't actually see that. It's hidden back. But what they see from the road is a small plot. And I always make sure I put something very eye-catching in that plot. It's where the zinnias go. It's where I don't really sell sunflowers, but I always plant some sunflowers in there. It's where a good place for one row of dahlias. I don't put all my dahlias there, but one row, something that is going to catch a lot. I always plant tulips there for the spring, even if I don't sell them. Those flowers are my advertising because people see them and they'll say, "Look at that. Isn't that interesting?" Now they've caught your you've caught their attention. And the next time you're at a networking event, they're going to say, "Oh, are you the place with all the flowers?" Hello, penny drops. Yes, because I'm a flower farm. So think about where you plant your flowers and think about roadside attention. And do freebies. Host free events is a great way, and they can be so easy and simple. It can be something like Mother's Day morning, bring your coffee, let's wander through the garden. There's nothing blooming yet on my farm at Mother's Day. I have the tulips. They're already cut and ready for sale, but everything else is just little plants. And but people can wander and they see potential. They're just outside. They just like to be wandering, and you can wander with them and drink your coffee while you're wandering. It does not have to be any more complicated than that, and you don't have to be an expert. You can say, as I usually do, I've been trying to sort out this perennial. I don't know if it's going to work or not because I don't know much about it. So it's a bit of a test. You'll have to come back to see if I get flowers later in the year to sell. Like, it really is that simple. And you can demonstrate products. You can have a particular time when you're at your booth. Being at your booth is really important. If you followed the discussion of um, channels and all the different channels that we did last year, it's certainly posted on our site. You'll know that when we came to talk about roadside, there was a pretty strong consensus that people want to see you, and people want to know that there's actually a farmer there. And so you are the story. You are part of the story, at least. You need to be out there at least some of the time. I run a self serve booth, but I kind of keep an eye out. I'm outside working and I'm nearby, and I keep an eye out. And if I see a car drive up, I make sure I come by the stand, I bring a new bunch of flowers in, or just wander in and say hello. And I think it's marvelous because that's a form of networking. That person now didn't just pick up flowers, they met a flower farmer. And that's a really important thing for them. And they feel very special when that happens. So you've given them an experience instead of selling them something. And it is all about experiences. It's all about that. And a non farm experience does not have to be this great big organized workshop that took me weeks to plan, and I had to have tents, and I had to have permits, and I had to have porta potties. You don't have to go there. It's just meeting you. It's just that simple. So that is a farm experience. So do that. Get yourself out there. Cross promotions important. Look at businesses, and they don't have to have anything to do with flowers. It's nothing to do with flowers, right? It's businesses locally or institutions and organizations locally who share some of your values. Maybe they share the value of sustainability. Maybe they are interested in building community, and that's what they share. Um, Identify them and find ways that you can do things together. So it could be coffee shops everybody thinks about, but it could be uh, seniors apartments or nursing homes. Lots of people do flower arrangement with nursing homes. You're going to think, well, those people aren't going to buy my flowers. No, but those people all have family members, and they all have relatives who are going to come to visit. And they're when the relatives come and say, well, what did you do, Auntie so and so, this week? She's going to say, this wonderful woman came and she has a flower farm and we made flower. And there's someone, word of mouth, right there. So think of cross promotion as just another way of bonding with your local community, but maybe with a focused thing, for example. And you might identify a particular organization that becomes part of your identity. When I started out, I linked up with women's shelters locally. It sort of was my chosen cause, if you will. I come from a family that I was in a very abusive family, so I was kind of close to that personally. And so I donated flowers all the time, and people had events in the shelters and everything. And everybody told somebody. Like, I had all kinds of people come to buy flowers at my farm because of that. And now I've kind of morphed because I have several elderly relatives who are in seniors apartments and nursing homes. And so now I'm taking flowers there and I leave them in the front entrance. Last year, I had a relative in a hospice, and I always took flowers to the hospice, and still drop flowers at the hospice. So, this is the kind of cross promotion that you can do, and it can be a specific planned thing. Service clubs is a good one. I often think about fathers and Father's Day. Father's Day, you've got the peonies in full bloom. It's hard to make Mother's Day, you miss it, but Father's Day you meet. And Father's Day. Well, why wouldn't fathers want to come buy flowers or walk through the farm? So, a partnership with a service club who's probably doing some kind of a breakfast thing for Father's Day. And you could say, hey, here's a coupon. There's a flower farm just down the road. And why don't you go and pick up a bouquet? Those kinds of things. And that father comes and he picks up a bouquet and he's excited and he meets you. And then next week and the week after, he comes to buy flowers. So these kinds of cross promotions are really important. And of course, walk in with flowers. Walk into your local flower shop. Target a local flower shop, and sorry, coffee shop. And there are local coffee shops everywhere. Flower shops too. You can walk in with flowers and see if they want to buy them. Um, and it's nicer if they don't, in a way, because they remember you. Because often a flower shop will say, we kind of have our suppliers, and it's surprising, but you probably don't grow a lot of the flowers that they buy, especially if they're part of a teleflora program or whatever that is really focused on particular arrangements. They have to have Gerbera daisies and so forth. You're not going to have those. But you've just met with some designers who are so bored to death with Gerbera daisies, and they wish they did different things. And even if they don't at that shop, staff move between shops, right? Designers move, designers freelance. It's a whole community world of designers moving from shop A to shop B, designer A, designer B. Sooner or later, they're going to be attached to someone who's designing for weddings. And then they're going to say, I remember there was this amazing flower shop who brought things in when I worked at so and so. We didn't buy their flowers then, but I think I'm going to contact them now. It's for the future. This is a long game. You don't know what's going to happen in the future through these contacts, but make these contacts because it will come back to you. I still contacted by people who say, I remember when you were selling to blah blah, fill in the flower shop, and that was like 12 years ago. And in fact, just the other day someone said, I was working at blah blah, and I remember you brought flowers in. It's a long time to remember that. And she said, and now I'm doing some local events, and I want to, pick up some local flowers. So it's quite amazing how these things come back when you make an impact, and flowers make an impact. It's always like, oh wow. And finally, email marketing, something that you probably already think about. Build an email list. Um, Email isn't really offline, I know, but it's not exactly social media either because you own this list. It's a list that you own. It's an asset. It's an important asset. Businesses, when they close, they sell that asset, right? So build it. It's worth building. Um, it's not owned by Meta. It's not owned by MailChimp. It's owned by you. And this is really important because nothing else you post is. So you have this list of people. You can get them anyway, for course on your website, but also for signing up, like just everywhere you are. Have a little sign up booth for people who want to follow more information. And be respectful when you email them. People don't like to get constant things, right? I sometimes sign up for a farm's email, because I often do. And if I get like 3 in close sequence, like within the first 6 weeks or so, I'm off that list. I don't want to know that much. I want to stay in touch with big things, but I don't want the constant, and this week we have. So think about that. Do an email at the changing of the seasons. Here's the lineup for this spring. Welcome to spring. This is what's up for Mother's Day, blah, blah, blah. And then you go into midsummer. Isn't it hot? And did you know that the flowers for midsummer, we have sunflowers, whatever. And then as you head into fall, we're winding down the season. The dahlias are in full swing. We doing this special thing for Thanksgiving. Make it seasonal. Make it for the holidays. Don't email them constantly. And play the long game. If you need to know where to find these resources, if you're new to this Open Flower Network project, um, this is where you look, and this is kind of where we are assembling everything on a website. So you just go to openflowernetwork.ca. One day this will be called you go to openfoodnetwork.ca. One day we hope it's going to be called openflowernetwork.ca, but we're fundraising and friend raising for that project. Um, and you go to the About tab, and then you will find projects, and you will find Open Flower Network project, and you will see all these resources and events linked to in one place. Thank you so much for your attention today, and I hope you can move a little bit into the analog world. You don't have to give up the digital world. I wish I could. But you can ground your feet in your local community and do some absolute amazing promotion.